Good morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, and good evening to some of the people out there because we don't know where you'll be listening from, watching from. But today is Saturday the 13th, and we are excited to have another edition of the OG show. And we do have a wonderful guest, I must say. Um, this show is where ideas meet action, right? Where we try to get the thoughts of people whose voices matter. And today we're joined by a man whose voice, to a large extent, our political atmosphere, our national atmosphere has been kind of foggy, but I think his voice has pierced that fog and it reached the national conscience. So he brought that out through his July 26th oration, right? And many people did not know the name before, but I'm sure as of now, a lot of people do know Ambassador Dr. Emmett Lafayette Dunn. And he joins us today. Dr. Dunn, good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you, Alva, and thank you for the invite to come and to be on this show. When you first extended the invitation, and I checked the name of the show out, OGees, that took me back to our growing up days in Monrovia with some soul tracks, you know.
Yeah,
But it's good to be here. Thank you, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our listening audience. Thank you.
wonderful. So folks, this is a Liberian-born ordained minister. He's been involved in international development, international advocacy. He has served in numerous capacities. Currently, he's the president's envoy for, I think, partnership and philanthropy. Um, he's also, you know, strongly connected with the Baptist Church, and he has held multiple roles with the convention, the mission, the church, and he will share some of those in his brief expose about himself. But we go way back, uh, and before, or let's say after you introduce yourself, Doc, because people want to know a little bit about you, a little bit more of the person, and then we'll talk a little bit of young childhood stuff, and then see how we can get into the meat of the discussion. But please share a little bit about yourself, who you are, and some of the things that kind of motivate you, or kind of prick your conscience about different things.
Well, thank you again for this platform. I think people like yourself, Alva, and others who, with the access to technology through what we would term as social media, I think you guys are doing a great service, not only to the diaspora but for the persons in Liberia, because you create access to different voices, different ideals, different perspectives that and that's what a healthy democracy, that's what a thriving democracy or thriving country, that's what we need. We need the access to different perspective and different voices. So thank you for what you do and for having me on the show. Well, again,
Wonderful.
my name is Emmett Dunn. I grew up in Monrovia. My parents hail from Grand Bassa County, Buchanan, and Fortsville. Um, all of my life, I um, started life up on Benson Street, Snapper Hill, and then moved for a little bit on Gurley Street, and then on the Old Road, Gaytown Old Road, and from there, I was blessed to come to the States to begin my studies. But while in Liberia, I started my early childhood education development at a school named the George and Toll Elementary School. It was situated right behind. I'm about to date myself. Right
No
behind the
problem, Doc.
old,
You still know kids over young, so don't worry about the dating.
right behind the old Defense Ministry on Benson Street. For those people who remember where the Defense Ministry used to be, behind there, And when I passed to the third grade, I moved from that school to the J.L. Gibson, and I'm taking this slow, not G.W., the J.L. Gibson. Not that anything is wrong with G.W. I just want to,
Right.
give credit to our little school, the J.L. Gibson Elementary School. At the time, it was on Center Street, not just a few blocks from the cemetery.
Right.
After a year, we moved on to Gurley Street, where it is currently located. And I graduated from elementary school in 1976, and then I enrolled at the then St. Patrick's High School. For many persons who may not know, the school does not exist today. I won't
But
get.
the efforts to rejuvenate, right?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I'm on that team to the physical structure is almost at its completion, and I must give a shout out to current president S.J. Takofa, who was instrumental in extraordinary leadership,
Yes,
and,
his
that
leadership is
I
strong.
serve as one of the persons that was entrusted to do some fund development for that, and I think we're on the way to open the doors of St. Patrick once again. But I graduated from
Wonderful.
St. Patrick's in 1982. And while I did have a full scholarship to enroll at Cottonton and then move on to medical school, I felt an urge. And for those of us in ministry, we say I felt a calling on my life to enter ministry, gospel ministry. And I went to the Liberia Baptist Theological Seminary, and I graduated with a bachelor's of theology in 1986. I was ordained at the Providence Baptist Church in 1987, and in 1988, I was awarded a World Council of Churches scholarship and deemed as a World Council scholar. And I came to the States, and I began my educational pursuit at the Virginia Theological Seminary and then at the Howard University, where I earned a Master's of Divinity degree. So that's my educational pursuit up
So
until this point. But there
so
were
let's
others, there are many others, college and university that I did other things, but did
right,
not complete
right.
a degree. No.
So let's go back a little bit to childhood, just so people can get a little understanding. I know you mentioned Gurley Street, and the real Cuba then got a different interpretation of a Gurley Street, but you are different in terms of some of us who are like the Banapigi in the town, just all over the place. But at what stage did you realize that you had a calling? I mean, because your early life was a model life, you were not like some of us just all out there all the time. You were just different. How did that come about?
Well, I would say I was a mama's boy. I grew up with a mother, single parent, in a home with my two older brothers on my mother's side, and uh, she protected her three boys, obviously, but she took uh, extra, care to ensure that I was brought up on the straight and narrow. But I always had that deep sense of I had that deep sense of wanting to be something different, someone different. I always felt that my life had a purpose, even at the very young age. I always, you know, I always look back and I share that, as long as I can remember my growing up life, I was never in a fight, a physical
No,
altercation,
no. I mean, you
never in a
like I
fight,
said, you were different. You were
not
just
even on the soccer field, never in a fight, not even on the basketball court, never in a fight. I just always had this sense of wanting to set a standard for colleagues and those people in my network, no matter how young I was.
right.
And somewhere buried deep in my heart, I saw myself as a leader. Not to, I don't want to be arrogant about it or put a
No, you
chip on
don't
my
have to
shoulder
be.
about it.
Just being realistic.
I just felt in my vein that I was called to be a leader, and let's not get it twisted. Leadership takes different form. We're not talking about political leadership. Not that I'm distancing myself from that. I'm not. But I'm saying I was called to always be the leader, no matter what space I
Right.
was put in.
Right. And I've been exposed to different kind of leaderships. And one of the things is you can lead from anywhere, and I think is Ifwa McGowan, who really kind of pushed that in terms of 360 degrees leadership. You can be anywhere on the table, any part of the place, and be able to lead. So I really appreciate that from you. So kind of fast forward now. You just talked about your daughter earlier. I think we're not on the call at the time having her
Right.
30th. Do you want to share a little bit about family, just
Oh,
so?
yes, certainly. Certainly. I've been married 31 years. Our oldest daughter, Leanne, celebrated her 30th birthday on yesterday. And we
Wonderful.
have, and she's, thankfully, she's in the fashion industry. She works on the West Coast in LA and shuttle between
Really?
LA and,
You got to
yeah,
connect with her cousin Nyla.
yeah, between LA and New York,
Okay.
she does that. Our son, Emmett Jr., and we affectionately refer to him as Metus, and he's in the work of Wall Street with Grant and Thornton Financial Institution.
Wonderful.
Our last daughter, Annette, she's a junior at Syracuse University, and my wife Swan is senior executive with Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield of Washington, D.C.
Wonderful. So, folks, there you have it. That's the person. You heard some of his early goings, how he, presented himself, and that's factual, folks. To be honest with you, um, you know, some people just carry themselves a different way from an early age, and they just maintain that level of, strong personality, very open, very different. Um, but the main reason here, Remy Dunn, is because of your oration, your July 26th oration. I believe that through that address, you sparked something in the nation. And again, separate from your address, I think that this July 26th celebration was really different in terms of how Liberians really came out in different cities, even in Liberia, to celebrate it. So it could be some kind of renaissance or some reawakening. But what you offer was not just a critique, but you gave us a roadmap, whether from justice to reconciliation, from symbolism to substance, or from political division to unity, or from less liberalization to more liberalization being involved in it. I saw it as a real kind of patriotic manifesto to a nation where you have something in it for everybody. So what kind of preparation went into that kind of messaging? Because it is not something that I don't think maybe you have been inspired or called to that message, but what went into getting that message? You being able to touch on so many different things and have something for everybody and really spark the national conversation.
Well, thank you, Ava. Uh, First of all, when I got the call, from the president himself to say that I would like for you to serve, obviously I was taken aback, and I would say this. Outside of me accepting my call to the gospel ministry and outside of my family life, I consider that the highest honor that anyone could bestow on me. I did not take it lightly. I didn't feel entitled. I didn't. I saw it as an opportunity to use that platform for the good of Liberia, not for myself, not for self-aggrandizement or to find favor in the government. I don't need that. And so, how did I prepare for that? As you know, Ava, I'm in and out of Liberia on a very regular basis
Right.
because of the work I do. We're building the school in Bopulu, we're managing a school in Broadville, we're assisting with another school in Cardwell. We distributing food and shoes and backpacks. I'm an active member with the Rotary Club of Monrovia, so I'm actively involved in that as well. Empowerment Square,
I must
that
tell
just
you before you go on, the rice you shared so many people I shared our rest with, they really enjoyed it, and I actually ate some of the rest myself.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
thank you for that.
So yeah, and we share some more, you know. And I'm also connected with the Empowerment Square Liberia, where I chair that board, and we just build, what we consider still state of the art learning center here
Well,
on the
question
ground
it is.
on the ground
Congratulations
of
to you
Greensville.
and Leo
Yeah,
Johnson.
yeah,
I mean, the impact that will have down the road, because
yeah,
I know you were there with USIS were there. You were there with the library down on Ashburn Street, opposite I think the Executive Pavilion.
yes.
So the kids today, the impact of that learning center on them will not be felt until like 30, 40 years, and it will still be talking about it. So congratulations to you and Leo for that.
Well,
Wonderful.
well, well. Let me just. The learning center has begun to make impact right now. I mean,
It's
today,
instant.
Saturday, if you call the learning center now, it is to capacity. On last night we have movies nights now on every other weekend, so they can come in there. We're
Wow.
we are the only one in the country now that have is accredited testing center for those persons who are doing international English testing to travel and to
Super.
matriculate to schools out
Congratulations.
of Liberia. So the Learning Center, and let me give a shout out to Miss Alma Harris, who is a country manager, for doing an
Yeah. He's,
extraordinary
he's
job, and
dynamic.
every member of staff that's there. But go back to the question you asked about my speech preparation. I
Right.
talked about my frequent travel to Liberia.
Hmm.
And so once the president asked me to do this, I interview ordinary people, from pimp and drivers to KK riders to domestic workers to friends of mine who are in high places. And I asked them one simple question: if you were to speak to Liberia, and at the time nobody knew I was the orator, so if you
Right.
had to speak to Liberia, what would you say? And so I would say that my speech was actually a speech representing the voices of so many people,
Now I comprehend it. Knowing the
so many people,
preparation you put in, now I
so many
understand why
people.
it came out like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I went to restaurants and engaged waiters. I talked to even some of our Arab traders in the hotel behind the desk. I'm friends with all of them, and I asked them those questions. You being a businessman in Liberia, if you had to speak to the people, you what would you say? So I took it extremely seriously. And then I also did research on other speeches that were given before, to see what people had to say. Obviously, my senior brothers Elwood and Eddie, I had conversations with them as
Right.
well, family members. And so yeah, I put a lot of preparation into it. So it didn't come easily. And but the truth of the matter is that speech was really completed 3 o'clock on July 26th that morning, early 3 o'clock,
Wow.
July 26th
Okay.
morning. I finally completed the speech.
Okay. So in terms of the speech at a high level now, you offer like 5 pillars, right? You want us to reimagine our national identity. You talk about economic disparity. You talk about reclaiming education as a public good, which is really, really important. You talk about ending prejudice and division among us, and then you talk about promoting gender equity. How do you think those align with President Boycott arrest agenda? I mean, I know the acronym: agriculture, rules, rule of law, education, sanitation, and tourism. So how do those 5 pillars of yours kind of align with what we see as the arrest agenda, or what has been talked about as the arrest agenda?
Well, first of all, I intentionally did not pay attention to the arrest agenda. I
Okay.
intentionally did not. For the mere fact is, I didn't want my speech to be um, a promotion of the arrest agenda. All right. I think the question that we should ask is, how does the arrest agenda align with my speech? I think that's a fair question. I think it's a fair
It's fair.
question.
I like
It's a fair
that. I
question.
like that.
Because my speech was really apolitical. It touched on politics, but it was not intended to be a political speech.
Oh, it's
Um,
more than that.
yeah, it's more than that, far more than that. Within the oration, and now that you introduce the president's arrest agenda for national development, um, I see it. I see the alignment quite easily, um, especially when we talk about his desire for reconciliation and without signing bias. I think this president has demonstrated his desire to reconcile the nation. I think for the first time and since the coup of 1980, that we see a president taking a step to say, okay, while we don't have a perfect blueprint, let's begin somewhere. And so my call for national reconciliation, to the extent that we have a political, non-governmental commission, to advance the work of reconciliation across the country, I think is a step in the right direction.
I mean, it certainly is, because uh, you know, you mentioned, and I don't have the quote exactly, but you can't have reconciliation without justice. And like you said, and I agree, the president has really pushed the needle, right, with the pushing the war crimes court. Yes, some of those who hold the major responsibility for the war may be aging, or some have passed away, but still, it's a cleansing thing, and it's something that needs to happen. That conversation, that honest conversation, still needs to happen for some people to get, because some people have not moved on, and then all aspects of that, the mental health aspect, the emotional aspect of it, and stuff. So, how do you think this whole reconciliation can be set up? Because you did call for a National Reconciliation Commission, a
Yeah,
permanent one, a
yeah,
standing one.
right.
So how do you think this can work? What's in your mind are the key components?
Well, I think first thing, I and your listening audience, when I speak of reconciliation, I'm not beginning from 1980 or the Civil War. I'm taking it back to 1821, 22. All right, because we have to be honest with ourselves. The only way Liberia will thrive, the only way we'll come together, except we revisit our history. Because our history, while it is unique in of itself as to how we evolve as a nation, our history is painful. Our history is a painful one. We have points where we can celebrate, but there are other moments where we have to say, you know, this was not right.
Fact.
And we need to go back. So when I speak of reconciliation, I'm talking about going back into history, and let's name it. Let's name it. I think I talked about the fact that our national
Model.
branding, what we call our motto,
Right.
needs to be changed. And I make no apologies to. I mean, my maternal uh, great grandparents came off the ship. They came from North Carolina, so I would be in that American, Liberian, Congo sector of our country, and I'm proud to be one of those. I'm not hiding away from my identity. But the fact of the matter is, we cannot uphold, something that is etched in our history that we deem so sacred, when in fact the very words are words of division. You know, and so when I speak of reconciliation, I want us to go back, and some of those things can be corrected. Ava, like you know the studying of our motto, and coming up with a new one, for me, that is a genuine sign of reconciling our historical past. All right.
And you,
Now, granted, all of those people back there, no one of them living today, but
right.
we can correct that aspect of it. Now, where we are today, we have a whole new set of issues. One that is brewing right now that I hope people are paying attention to is this deep political divide. I mean, it is quite disheartening that everything in Liberia now is politics. Everything is politics. And the more we allow it to brew, the worse it's going to get. and,
It
and
is.
so when we talk about moving forward, I'm looking at a commission being set up to look at all of these things and see how we can uh, talk about it across country, not Monrovia, but
Right.
across country. And I see it being part of our uh, educational curriculum. I want to see it in the schools. I want to see programs teaching our young people of how to be good citizens, how to respect the humanity of each other.
Don't get me
For me,
started.
that's where these things gonna get started in the classroom.
Wonderful. And you know, 2 points I just want to touch on quickly. Civics, what you're talking about is civics for our people. We along with our CEO and founder for Child Steps International, and now Civics and Service, International, CSI. We did a civics book that's being used in the schools. We also have an interactive model for those people who can read and write, that they can understand the responsibilities of citizenship. They can understand, what our form of governance is. People don't understand this democracy we talk about, this, equality we talk about, what the responsibilities of the leaders supposed to be, what the qualities and characteristics of the leaders are supposed to be, how to vote people in, and what you can expect in terms of the responsibilities those people are obligated to you as a citizen. So that's a wonderful point you're raising. But the one thing about the symbolisms and how they have been interpreted, you mentioned that you did talk to your older sibling, Dr. Euda. Um, and I believe he was on a committee. I was trying to research it, but it kind of slipped my mind. They were on a symbols committee and they did some work. Were you able to ask him about the work and what direction where it's at now and how it could be picked up and really leveraged into the current situation, given the attention you have brought to our symbolism and reconciliation and unity?
Yes, exactly. As a matter of fact, I have a copy of the little booklet there was a booklet that was published.
Oh,
Uh, I think it was a commission set up by Her Excellency, former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Unfortunately, according to him, that did not, while that pamphlet was produced, the work was not over because what the pamphlet does, the pamphlet highlights the significance of those symbols, the meaning of those symbols, how they came about, what they are, what it is in our current context. All right,
mhm.
I believe the next step was to get the public involved and to see how, if anything needed to be done about them. So they did do a part of the work. They produced a pamphlet, like I said, highlighting the significance of those symbols and the historical context of those symbols, but nothing else further. So it could be that rather than reinventing the wheel, whatever steps we take in the future, the likes of Dr. D.L. Woodan and those persons who assisted him. It was a wonderful commission. I mean, in terms of the political and ethnic and gender makeup of the commission, it
Right.
represented every sector of the country. So I think we can revisit that to see how we can continue that work.
All right. So, 2 points of that whole reconciliation in my mind that you really haven't touched on is and our quote unquote Zogos, our young people who got into it now, they're not so young. They got some grandchildren now, in that space of some of those early people who came from war and they had children, and their children are having children now. And then the diaspora. So, how do you factor in the whole disadvantaged population with the whole drug situation and the diaspora and the stuff you talk about in terms of tribalism and stuff? I mean, there's a lot of different verticals in this space that we really need to try to bring together. So what's your perception of this framework that can really start to soften these things and blend us as a people?
Ava, I think we joke on the streets and we say Liberia's story never ends. Liberia's story plenty. And which is true,
It's
which
true.
is true. Coming out of you know the Civil War, and most time I don't like to refer to it as Civil War because there's nothing civil but war. You know, Coming out of the war, we really have not paused as a country, honestly, we haven't paused as a nation. Listen, why did we get here? And what do we need to do to cause us not to get back here? And I think for me, we need to do that exercise. Now, talking about those disadvantaged young people or persons, not because said all of them not young anymore, who have been victimized by the abuse of drugs. There are several things that we need to take into consideration. The first thing is that, like in any society, there are ways people drown their frustration or numb their frustration or kind of uh, create temporary spaces so
Yes.
that their frustration don't get the best of them. Now a lot. I'm no psychologist and I'm no medical doctor, but the work I do, we rub shoulders with all of these people. So I'm not stranger to disadvantaged, marginalized people all
Right.
over the world. Um, in order to address the what I term as the epidemic that has hit our nation in terms of the drug epidemic, um, we need to be able to invest in um, ways that these young people can find wholesome employment, because we can rehabilitate all we want, and granted there's not a lot of that going on right
Right.
now either,
Right.
but for the few who have been rehabilitated, all right, they do well, they come out and nothing has changed. you know if you put them right back in that hopeless
That's the thing.
situation, you know chances are, I'm not saying all of them, what we call relapse, they could go right back into that lifestyle. And it's disheartening to see, the toll that drugs are taking or are having on these young people. So the drug issue is, we must, one, create treatment for them, treatment opportunities. But outside of that, we must create opportunities for them to be engaged. If not gainfully employed, they must go into some kind of a vocational training center where they can learn some skill sets to maintain themselves economically. All right, because if we think that this drug issue is only affecting, um, uh, I want to be very sensitive in the words I
Other
use.
people,
If we,
children?
yeah, exactly. If we just think it affecting other people, children, or
No.
people who you believe don't matter, no. The drug problem in Liberia is affecting every family, every community, every sector. I mean, you have people in government who are functional drug addicts. What do I
Fact.
mean by that? They wake up in the morning, they can go to work, they can function, but they want to hit all during the day, and they can do it because they can afford it. All right. The people you see falling on the streets or living in the graveyard, people who can't afford it but are addicts, and they're doing everything they can to support that lifestyle. And it must stop. And government must take the lead. Just arresting them, shutting
Not enough.
down ghettos, that's not the solution. That's a part of the solution. Now, obviously, the bigger question is, where are these drugs coming from in the first place? That's the bigger question. And so we need to protect our borders. We need to institute laws, harsh laws, that will punish severely those persons who are caught in this drug trade.
Yeah. I'm in agreement with you, and that's why sometimes it's disappointing when we see what's going on with the DEA since this government has come to power. The internal issues, um the actions of some of the DEA people, and even the kids on the street. Because Caleb Doma with he
Oh
has his
yes,
ministry, he
yeah,
has Zogos with Care,
yeah.
and I'm involved with the Zogos with Care side. Even though we do go to church on Sunday with the Zogos, but when you talk to them, they say it's the same people in the security sector that are actually the bosses. They will free them when they get in prison. They will give them the drugs to sell, And sometimes some of the drugs could be some of the seizure, the drugs that are seized. So um your call is really a call to action more so than just you stating the problems and offering the solutions. It's about stuff that people have to act on. So
Yeah.
how can, and you have a direct relationship with the president, how can you get him to really act on this stuff? I mean, like tangible actions that show we move in the direction to try to solve this problem.
Well, yes, and while I have not had this direct subject conversation with His Excellency, I do intend to do that. Um, and we're going to start from the premise that at least he's taken some action
Right.
in disciplining security personnel who he has found to be negligent of executing their duties. Um, and like you, I have heard as well that some of the illegal activities around, you know, drugs accessibility points to some of those persons who have been entrusted with the responsibility of ensuring that it doesn't happen. And I would say that once we hear these kinds of stories, they need to be investigated.
Yes.
We just cannot hear and say, oh, it's just one of these young persons, victim of drugs, that's talking, talking rubbish. No, I think we need to investigate, and where we find people liable, they need to be held accountable. Now, let's talk about actors that we believe can play a role. See,
Hmm.
government can't do everything.
No, they can't.
Government, I don't want to repeat John F. Kennedy where he challenged the U.S. when he said, "Ask not what the country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." I think it's a statement, though uh, dated back in the early '60s. It's something that we need to apply to ourselves. Now, someone said I was hard on the church. Yeah, I am hard on the church because I think the church continued to lose its footing when it comes to um, transformation within the community. The
Right.
church is
Or
now
even
all
being
about
the
sending,
moral voice, because the
yeah,
church
sending
is
people
full
into
of a
heaven.
lot of headache
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. So I believe churches need to partner with government in addressing this issue. You know, churches need to we need to develop programs and empower our churches and other religious communities, our Islamic community as well, because we're all in this together. I think
And
drug
that's what I'm
education.
saying. When you say church, is pluralistic to all the
Right.
religious. Okay, yeah,
Right, right, and I also believe that we need to develop drug education in our schools. Because again, you'd be surprised that even some of our students are being exposed to this issue of drugs. And so while it is a difficult thing to handle, we must begin somewhere, and I
right.
believe we can do it. We
Okay.
can.
Then the second piece to that was the diaspora.
Right.
And you can touch on the diaspora piece within that, and then we can come down to the diaspora conference. So if you want to touch on first how the integration of the diaspora, and then we can come and talk about, or you want to blend it, that's fine with me too.
Yeah, I like I said, Ava, I think Liberia can't survive without her citizens that's living outside of its borders. Liberia can't. Let's just name it. Let's just name it. Now I know there are people who uh, putting up roadblocks to have us involved, and I also know that sometimes we in the diaspora we create unnecessary problems for ourselves. I think
Fact.
sometimes the way we speak of our citizens in Liberia or our
Yeah.
leaders, we put on this air and this arrogance, or from the comfort of wherever we are, and speak to people, and sometimes when we speak out of the context, not understanding what's going on the ground. I think we need to humble ourselves as well,
Totally.
to engage our people. We this arrogance of who we are in the diaspora. Yeah, we're giving hundreds of millions of dollars to the economy. We know that. There's no secret. Central bank puts that we put out every year. We're giving hundreds of millions of dollars. But just because we do that doesn't mean it gives us the right, to instruct people on how to conduct themselves and how to live and speak to government all kinds of ways. I think that's wrong. All right. I think we need to create a wholesome platform, a wholesome space, a safe space, where we can dialogue and see how we can, move our country forward. The diaspora has played and will continue to play a very important role in national development of
Right.
our people. Um, Not many people know this, but the diaspora community is the largest, or one of the largest. In fact, we put more money in Liberia now than most of the Liberia international partners put
Yeah,
together.
the donors, we
The
do.
donors, we put more money in there now. If we were to withhold our remittances, the economy could almost crash. And the figures of that central bank puts out does not include the money that we physically take into the country
Oh,
and pay
yes.
school fees and pay hospital bills or buy food. It doesn't include that those monies don't go through the system. The monies they report are the monies that go through the system. So
Yep.
if we were to put the money that goes through the system and the ones that we physically take into the country or we send by our family or friends, I mean, we could be almost close to $1 billion a year. And that's not far-fetched.
No, no, no.
That's not
It's there.
far-fetched.
It's there. It was like 800 million last
Yeah.
year. And
Last year it was 776 million. It was not far-fetched. That we put almost $1 billion into the economy. I mean, come on, guys.
so how do we harness that? Because for example, I just read the other day in Ethiopia, the country, its citizens and the citizens abroad came together with $5 billion for a 1,000 megawatt, power plant. How can we as Liberians, because we have a group, Liberia Diaspora Equity Fund. There are one or two other groups that are coming up, whether it's the Diaspora Initiative or Diaspora Fund 2 or whatever. But we need a critical mass of funding that can impact the our economy from a business perspective and give us some ownership. Whether it's importing, just it would just say we focus on importing people or we focus on importing crawfish or something, to break that cartel. Because recently the vice president was given the responsibility to um you know understand the pricing and how things were happening. And there's so many layers. I spoke to the vice president, and I was pleasantly surprised at the depth in which he was going to engage these individual, elements or layers in the pricing structure, to understand why the prices were where they were at and why they need to be reduced. And then the balance between those who are domestic and producing certain things versus the importation and where the importation is coming from, how it's handling. So it's a lot of work. So where do you see this diaspora group trying to get some momentum into the economy as a collective rather than just everybody doing their own thing?
Excellent question. Let me speak of the vice president before I tackle that question. You shouldn't be surprised. Understand, our vice president um, is an entrepreneur. If you read his life story, how he
Yes.
came to where he is, he understands microeconomics. He understands trading. He understands street peddling. He understands those things. So that's the approach with which he took to carry out the president's mandate. And he's done a good job, and he's doing a good job. You can see prices begin to come down already. You see what's happening with the gas. See what's happening with rice. So these things will continue to manifest itself into ways that the average guy on the street can benefit. All right. Now let's talk about the diaspora. Ava, at the core, you see, I like to go to the root
The
cause.
roots.
I like to go to the root cause. At the core of who we are as Liberians is the absence of trust.
Big time. Big time.
At the core of who we are. You know, one of the things I wanted to do at this upcoming Diaspora conference to open it up with and present a paper on the title, "The Power of Trust." But because of time constraint, I may not be able to do that. But I think that's what's lacking. We do not trust each other, and there's reasons for that. It's not in a vacuum. There's reason for that. I mean, if you open this line and actually will call in and talk about how people have duped them in Liberia, relatives, friends, how they have been duped, you will have calls until the end of this weekend. We are not a trusted people, period.
And
I stand by that.
No, I stand with you. But what I'm saying is, because I can tell people all the time, sometimes some of my friends have gotten upset with me when I say I don't trust anybody. I got degree of confidence, right? But anybody, just about most people are tempted. So when you put them in a situation where there's no system to control, they will be corrupt. They will do whatever they can to take advantage. There's no recourse. Our judicial system, when it comes to land, you send money to your family to build a house or to help you do this, they eat your money.
Yeah.
You get into a business agreement, person default. You give a loan, they don't pay you, they avoid you, suddenly they act like you owe them.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little because I think it's important. You raised a question, and I started to answer by taking us to the core of who we are. All right. Now, let me also say the notion that Liberians cannot work together is a myth. It's not a fact.
I agree.
It's a myth. It's not a fact. The notion that Liberians do not support causes is another myth. It's not a fact. And I speak from experience. All right. Let's look at the Liberian Learning Center. I, along with my team in Liberia, we have raised in Liberia over $100,000 to build a Liberian Learning Center. Liberian money. I'm not talking pledges. Mr. Leo Johnson will back me up on this. I'm to give you facts. We can work together. We can support causes. But again, I believe they did it because they trusted the voice that was leading the campaign. I believe they trusted me. I believe it. That's why they gave that money. And today, the Liberian Learning Center is standing up, serving our community, and we can account for every dime. All right. So we can work together. We can support causes. But again, there's a trust factor. So how can we leverage all of this excitement for Liberia? Like I tell people, solution to Liberian problem can be found in every chat group, at every club beer conversation, at every party, at every funeral. We are not short of solutions. Everybody overnight have become an expert on Liberia's problem. I understand that. But not all solution will work because every solution can't fit in every context. All right. We must understand our context. So the context we find ourselves in the diaspora is a context of disunity. Right. Do you know how many Liberian organizations are in court right now fighting over leadership?
Most of the community organizations have been in court for that. Most.
Been in court. I mean, EULA is having a problem right now with its vice president. The community in New Jersey having an issue. Even in our churches, even in some of our quote-unquote Liberian churches, we seem to be having problems. So when we talk about reconciliation, we must understand we're just not talking about national reconciliation. We must reconcile ourselves where we are in our little spaces before we can move that on to the national stage. So one of the things that we're trying to accomplish, in the coming weeks when we meet in Washington, D.C. metro area, for the Liberian Diaspora Conference, is to look at reconciliation from various standpoints. And the way the conference is designed, Ava, is just not sitting there having someone lecture you. All
Right.
right. We are going to have a guest presenter from Rwanda, and I will tell you why we chose Rwanda. Because one, we wanted someone to speak to us from a non-biased standpoint, speak to us out of a context that kind of mirrors some of what we have experienced in Liberia, someone that has worked endlessly in their own country to address the great divide. Not that Rwanda has healed, by no means, not that Rwanda has fully reconciled, by no means, but we all know that Rwanda is on its way. And so we want to learn from Rwanda. And so he's going to come, he's going to share with us, and then we're going to have a panel. And on that panel are, people who were victimized by the coup, people who were victimized by the war, and we're going to engage that panel. And then we're going to break that conversation down into two separate discussion groups where you can go in and dialogue for an hour and a half. So the way it's been being planned, I hope people will take advantage of it. Unfortunately, we have limitation. And the reason for that is the way the conference is designed. You cannot effectively do this model with 1,000 people. When you talk about breaking them down into smaller groups, and plus, cost wise, it
What
can
about
be.
social media wise? Would people have access to?
Yes, sir. Everyone will have access. We have two components. We have a virtual component, and I like to distinguish between virtual and streaming. Streaming, anyone can watch. Virtual, you have to register
Right.
because you could be able to engage as well. Whereas streaming, you would not have
You just watch it.
access.
Yeah.
You're just watching. Your virtual registration will give you access for your voice to be heard as well, as best as we can manage it. So we're
Right.
doing everything we can to ensure that people's voices are heard. It's not a conference on a referendum of government. That's not where we are. It's a conference to listen to government and for government to listen to us
Wonderful.
in a wholesome, transparent environment. And so those who have registered before the conference, you will receive from us rules of engagement. We will not allow people to come and disrespect our leaders. We'll not allow people to come and disrespect each other. We will put rules in place. You must engage the conversation from a wholesome, respected standpoint. Not coming and holding back your perspective. That's not
Right.
what we're saying.
No.
Say whatever you want to say, criticize how much you want to, contribute how much you want to, but do it in the atmosphere of civility and respect.
Wonderful. So somebody has a question here. What is your view on embracing meritocracy and professionalism in Liberia? In your oration, you really talked about any prejudice and division and any nepotism, cronyism, focus on merit and competence. So how can you respond to this, and how do we embrace it, and how do we make it actionable?
Well, first of all, no one in Liberia, not even the president of Liberia, is entitled to that position. No one.
Agree.
No one is entitled
But
to
that's the
any
culture,
position.
though. They feel entitled.
Yeah, but no one's entitled. And this nonsense about, oh, that's his time, or oh, that's what. No, no. Position must be filled by competent people, not by the well connected.
Or
Now,
the
you can be
popular.
both. You can be well connected and competent. That's a blessing. That's a double blessing. And no one should be denied just because they're connected. So just because what do you use the word friend, or whether because I have access to his excellency, I should not be denied
True.
serving my people through a government appointment if I'm competent. That's equally wrong. That's equally wrong. I think those persons who are competent, all right, should be considered. Now, there's one thing in being competent, it's another thing in being committed. So I say you must be competent and committed. Because, Ava, to be honest with you, though, Liberia is not short of competent people.
I totally agree with you. I
Maybe
mean,
a
we
short of
talk about that all
competent
the time.
people.
We talk,
We have
but
very
there's no
competent people.
effort. There's no effort to search to fill a position.
No, not only that, Ava, there are people in position today. I'm not defending everyone, but there are people in position there who are competent and they have the educational and experience requisites to show. But the commitment is another thing. You see, because for me, Ava, I rather have a person with limited uh, capacity that is committed than someone with capacity from here to kingdom come that's not committed. I can easily help that
Feel
person that has
feel like
limited
that.
capacity to rise to the occasion. Then I can take someone who is already up there competence wise and cause them to be committed. We lack committed civil servants in Liberia.
Right.
Right?
And that's a strong part of implementation, right? Because you have really called out a lot of things, brought it to the table, bubble it up. But now, how can we really, or maybe you, in terms of your call to action, because some of it was specific,
Mhm.
like second term is not promised. We got to act now. You went down the line to everybody. So, what kind of mechanism can we build that we can really put into action most of the things you talked about? What kind of framework is there?
Okay.
Is it just you really engaging the president again on where are you with this, where are you with this, or is it something structural we can do to bring in that accountability for some of these actions?
Excellent question, Ava. No, it's not. It's not me. And let's speak of the president for a hot second. Um, I did meet with the president after the speech on another complete other matter that had to do with this diaspora conference. And one of the things that he said to me, he said, please um, send to me bullet points, those issues within the speech that you want me to take a look at.
Wow,
For me,
nice.
I thought it was magnanimous on his part, to ask me for that. I subsequently spoke with his one of his senior staffers and shared with him what the president had said to me. And this senior staffer confirmed that the president had instructed him uh, to take the speech and to glean from it those things that he thought that they needed to work on. Now,
Right.
where would that go? That's not for me to say. But I want to at least make this public to say that at least the president heard and wanted and wants to do something. All right. So I intend to follow up with that. But the question you raised is an important question. So what do I intend to do? I'm grateful that the nation, for the most part, embraced the speech as a positive one. I'm going to work with civic organizations. I'm going to work with youth groups. I'm going to work with schools to see how we can best tackle some of the things that need to be tackled. I'm going to work with partners in government. For an example, I call for the Liberianization policy to be enforced. I call for the work permit, to be streamlined so
Right.
that jobs that's meant for Liberians should be filled by Liberians. I call
And
for that.
only give those jobs to foreigners if there's no competent
Exactly.
Liberian. You
Yeah,
can
that
fully
was very
identify
clear.
that there's nobody
Yeah,
for that space.
yeah. I called for the uh, um, concession agreements to include Liberians with a significant percentage. Now, only to find out that there are laws on the books already that supports that.
But
There are laws on the books.
implementation,
We need to
implementation,
implement it. We need to implement it. So,
and
so some of the
enforcement.
things that I intend to do, I now intend to become an advocate for the people of Liberia. In my own little way, with the connections that I have, with the access that I have, I intend to be an advocate for the Liberian people because at the end of the day, my mantra now is Liberia first, always and for all. That's that's
Wonderful.
my that's my
But
mantra now.
what
Liberia first.
I've had a problem with, because a lot of people think is political, and sometimes make political look bad. Political to me is not bad. It's how you present the politics and how you carry. Like right now, you see the politics is really deteriorating. Everything is being politicized as opposed to looking at it objectively, at least, or with some sense of reasonableness and some critical thinking, and then being able to, come to some kind of collaborative position to move forward.
Right.
But we have a significant number of very, very smart Liberians. I mean,
Right.
the ones you went to school with, the ones I went to school with, and many of them are in the diaspora. How can we get these people to look back to Liberia, to probably want to do something in Liberia? Because that's a critical mass. If they
Yeah.
can just turn the face, even 25%, 30%, I think it can impact the needle in terms of development and how we can help these young people elevate, aspire, and see that there are successful Liberians who are doing things,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not only want to be politicians, but want to be some of these other, professionals that exist, that you can say, oh, that man, oh, that man is one of the top architects in America. I want to be like him. That man, one of the top businessmen in America. I want to be like him. How can we get there to encourage some of that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I know you wouldn't be surprised because you're well connected with things happening in Liberia. Maybe some of your listening audience may be surprised, but if we were to uh, collect data on what ordinary Liberians in the diaspora are doing in Liberia, it could possibly shock some people.
That's
We are doing a lot. All right. Things are happening in Liberia, and sometimes people don't even know where the resources are coming from. For the most part, it's coming from here. Liberians who are using their network, their connections, maybe through their jobs or through their businesses to do things in Liberia, from sending free containers with medical supplies to Liberia, or taking a mission medical team to Liberia, or offering free dental services in Liberia, or supporting schools, or something like what Leo Johnson did, putting up a state-of-the-art learning center.
mhm.
Liberians, Liberians are doing a lot. Liberians are going back, they're investing. If we were to create the data on that, we could surprise ourselves. All right. So I think one thing that I'm hoping will come out of this engagement that we're going to have with government in the next 2 weeks is to see how the diaspora, and maybe there's something the Office of Diaspora Affairs in Liberia can take on, to see how we can harness all of our efforts. Someone like myself, I pour in $250,000 in Liberia every single year for the past 6 years in my position as CEO of La Carey. $250,000 I put in there, not out of my pocket. When I say I mean I've given
No, we
leadership
understand. We
to
understand.
collecting that resource. We are now building a $400,000 high school campus right outside of Bopolu. We're about to also start a vocational. All because of my love for Liberia. And I'm not alone. I'm not unique. I'm really not. There are many people who, Ava, I know some of the things that you're doing on a small scale, but you're doing some stuff there, you know, and you can name names of people who are
You
doing
can,
things in
but bringing
Liberia.
that thing into a critical
I just
mass.
talked, I just talked with a young man out of Baltimore that worked for 15 years with the fire service and learned about the the hundreds of thousands of dollars firefighting equipment that they send to Liberia. So we're doing it now. Let's come back to how do we bring it all together? It requires leadership. It requires leadership. Ava, we need to take the diaspora leadership out of these quasi-political Liberian association, and I will call them out. We
That's a
need to
fact.
take it out of these
Or
quasi-political
they need to get with the
Liberian
program. They need to
associations.
reshape. They need to
All right.
reshape.
We need to grab the bull by the horn let me say this. I will be criticized for this. EULA has played a pivotal role in the diaspora in America. But EULA needs to wake up and realize EULA needs to reinvent herself and needs to realize that everything diaspora does not have to go through EULA. And that goes for every other Liberian association. We need to see how we can develop Liberia and not be political. So how do we do that? Develop critical mass? We are in silos right now doing these things. But it's going to take a trusted leader to bring us together. It's going to take that. And until we find that person, it will not happen. We'll continue to work in silos. I'm not saying anything that anyone on this listen to the podcast don't know about.
No, most people know, but we just know. Like you said, it comes with the trustworthy, even that like degree of confidence, but it comes with the trust factor, right? You don't believe that this person can represent your interests in a very objective way, and that's what happens with most people. If I put my stuff in there, it will disappear. I will not even know, what happened with it. No explanation, no accountability. But George, right, and this leadership got to come with a desire to quantify, to bring the numbers together. For me, it's always about data. That's the root of everything. If you can't have data, you know how you know what kind of recommendation to make, what kind of path to take. So we need to collect this information. We need to understand the totality, the diaspora GDP. We need to understand what is our gross domestic product that we put it into Liberia. The money that people take, the construction they're doing, the businesses they're doing. Yes, another person, they have established their businesses, but they're just not at the table. How can we get to this liberalization table? So those are some of the questions. And, you have something else to do. We respect that. But, we just wanted people to know that this conversation will continue. That's part of what the OGees show is about, right? The old heads coming, bringing some knowledge, showing the way to some of our younger folks. And, not to talk negative, there's a lot of positive young people that will come across in Liberia.
Very much so.
Very smart, and they really want to do the right things. But sometimes they are very limited in the spaces they operate.
And let me say, I think that there's someone making a statement that they mean well, but they can't get around the table. He's right. Whoever posed that question. And my intent is to engage the national legislature on this matter. My intent is to do that. Wonderful. They cannot lock out of the developmental conversation. They can't afford to do that,
especially for the stuff we can do, like some of the stuff we're sharing with you about the technology space.
We must be able to do that.
This guy is into construction. He told me the construction space. The whatever the Chinese companies that come to do the construction, they do or shadow work. Some of the Lebanese people. Now people have to understand, we don't say foreigners should not come to our country. We ourselves, we are foreign in another country. But what we're seeing is we should have that opportunity, especially when we have the capabilities, we have the skills, we have the knowledge to build our country up and retain some of those returns or revenues within the country, as opposed to everything being capital flight. So it's wonderful that you plan to engage them. Some of us have been engaging them for the longest time, and sometimes like hitting your head against the wall, but we are committed to it. So as we come to close, and folks will stay on for some of you guys to call in and talk and share your knowledge if you want to do that. But for each of the different segments that you kind of talk about, I want a message. First, the youth, the young Liberians, the youth, then the women, then the men. Most times, and that's a complaint that's happening right now with gender equality. A lot of Liberian men feel like they are being left out. Even the younger guys, they feel all about the young women. Then the diaspora, the legislature, and then the president himself. So those closing comments to try to define, and message to each of these different groups as to how you see them and what you want them to do as we move forward.
Thank you. And I don't mind coming back on the show and guess I only have to take an early exit because I've obligated some time with my daughter, who doesn't live with us. She's on her own, but she's with us this weekend, celebrating birthday. I need to spend some time with her as well. But let's start with our young people. Listen, guys, We've heard all along, all of us growing up, all the youth are the future of tomorrow. No. The more we advance that narrative, because here's it, tomorrow really never comes.
Tomorrow never comes.
Tomorrow really never comes. You know, and we need to change the narrative. Now we do understand what the statement means. But for some leaders, rather than bringing young people into the space so that they can learn, so that when the mantra of leadership falls in their lap, they know what to do. No, we keep them in the dark and keep saying, oh, your time will come. Your time will come. No. So for our young people, I want to encourage you, because right now, though, the center of innovation in Liberia, the center of creativity in Liberia is really lies with the young people.
It does.
It lies with young people. Look, something I've started on. I mean, there are young people. Let me advocate for this one, Ava, and I hope you join me in promoting this. There are many of us in Liberia, in the States here. We work for companies. Some of us have our own companies, and you do graphic designs, you do short videos. I would encourage you to consider passing some of that on to young people in Liberia. Not only will you pay less, I don't want you to pay below the poverty line. That's not what I'm advocating for. I want you to pay and pay well. It will still be less than you paying for it here, but you're going to empower our young people. They're there that can do that work. And everything is electronic now anyway. So if you want to do graphic design, you want to create a flyer, and you're paying someone here to do it. If you don't have a contact in Liberia, through our Liberia Learning Center, we can make that happen for you. All right. You can invest in Liberia by doing that, giving young people opportunity to make money. So that's one plug I'm going to put in there. But in talking to the young people, I don't want you to be discouraged. I know it's easy to be discouraged in Liberia. The lack of jobs, the lack of opportunities, the lack of accessibility. But I think together, both the private and the public sector, we need to come together. I grew up in the age where there were vacation jobs, there were cadet jobs in Liberia, where government put in the budget, opportunities for young people to work during the vacation.
Yes.
I want to join me in advocating for that. That's something I'm going to advocate for.
That's something I've been doing. I will gladly support you and join you wholesale. And one of the areas where I think we have a huge opportunity, but we have not really looked at, or we're not looking at as we should, is the good English, right? We can be a real call center powerhouse if we choose to be. Yes, people will say, oh, you need stable infrastructure, but we can have stable infrastructure in a select way. We can have 24 hours light and internet in some places where we can carry our call with redundancies and carry our call center operations. And we can talk about that offline or maybe another show later on. But there's so many opportunities we can create for our young people on the technology side. Some of those young people, they're doing the stuff you just saying beyond just what they call the stuff name, doing flyers, building websites. Some of these kids are doing some cybersecurity stuff, and they don't have to be for government because most are limited, but the private sector cybersecurity opportunities that we can try to attract to them. So just this whole digital transformation the president is talking about, it has to be from a national perspective. I don't know who's really leading it because we don't have our chief information officer in position to lead it from the mansion, and that's a different topic that we got to work with. But these huge 30, 40, 50 million digital tech and transformation contracts or loans that we get from the World Bank, they have to be Liberianized. Liberians have to build up a cadre or a strong, kind of not Silicon Valley quality, but close to something like that technology space has significant Liberian presence, and some of that money is staying on the ground with our Liberian people. So yes, that advocacy, we totally support you in it, and we really want Liberianization to be an active part of these young people seeing as opportunities outside of government. you know.
Right. Yeah. You spoke in vague terms about the World Bank, and I think that particular project is called the Grid Project. If
There's
I'm
a
not
grid
mistaken,
project, there's
it's
a
a grid
lift
project.
project, there's another project called a water project. So there's
Right.
three major, averaging 35 to 40 million dollars out there that we
Yeah.
would pay the loan for, that
Right.
we
I
don't
understand.
have significant Liberian participation in.
So Ava, I'm sure you follow and you follow it well because you have helped to school me on that as well. Um, the first step that needs to happen, and it has to happen from government side,
Yeah.
is that they need to write into the agreement. They need to write into the agreement that Liberia intends to use to, as best as we possibly can, Liberians to implement.
They need to, but there was pushback from the World Bank that the previous government, when Liberians who are at the table with the World Bank tried to push this, that the previous government did not put it in the contract so they can, but then we shouldn't take the loan. Y'all keep your money.
That's my point. That's precisely my point. That's what, and everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable.
I
You
did.
know, everything. You get. Hear me out, guys. In life, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate. Everything in life is negotiable. Even relationships is
True.
negotiable. Liberia can renegotiate the terms. Come on, Liberia is a partner of the World Bank. The World Bank will not walk away because one government didn't do something. There's a new government. It's about insisting on the fact that, look, this benefits. I cannot see the World Bank looking at this current government and say, we will not help you help your people.
And that's
Because
exactly what it is.
to renegotiate a contract, or not contract, but the terms of the loan, because it's a loan, it's not a grant, it's a
Right.
loan. The term to renegotiate the loan actually benefits Liberia. But anyway, we have to move on. So for
So for
young
the
people,
women,
we need to open up opportunities for them. Young people need to be encouraged and inspired, and we do so not by just talking, because you can motivate them all you want with words, but after motivating them with words, what's next? You see, it's the next thing. Like we're good talkers. We can
yes.
talk a good game. But after that, what? So we need to show our young people that not only do we want them to succeed. One of the things that Empowerment Square has done, and I think we're on our third or fourth cohort right now. We are finding money and going into the community and teaching young people how to be entrepreneurs. The first thing we did was
That
the
is so
first
important.
program. The first program we did was we got 80 persons who were selling on the streets and in the markets. Most of them were wheelbarrow entrepreneurs. And we brought them into a space and we trained them for months, from how to open a bank account, how to manage a bank account, the difference between supply and demand, asset mapping, understanding your clientele. We graduated them, and guess what, Ava? For all 80 of them, we opened a bank account with 400 US dollars in everybody's bank account. That's something that Empowerment Square did under the leadership. I don't take credit. I just helped to do it under the leadership of Mr. Leo Johnson. All right.
That's
Assisted by Miss Amma
32,000
Harris.
US dollars, folks. That's
400,
32,000.
no, 400.
No, 400 times the 80.
Yes, yeah, times 80. Yes. Yeah. And that's not to mention the fact that we gave everybody a smartphone. Everybody a smartphone. We couldn't afford to give everybody a computer, but we gave everybody a smartphone because of digital money. So we
Right.
taught them how to do that, how to set up those accounts. So these are the kinds of things we're doing. We just graduated another cohort of about 75 high school students, teaching them computer literacy. Okay. Again, we graduated them with a grant of 200 and a loan of 200 to start their businesses. So these are the kinds of things that we can do. This is just one innovative ways, and there are
Yeah.
other ways to do this. So we're not just talking about empowering young people, we are actually doing it.
Yes.
We are actually investing in it. Like Kerry is about to invest in, like I said, completing a high school campus outside of Bopolu, but also using another space to create a vocational training center, because we believe college is not for everybody.
No, That's true.
College is not for everybody.
And you
And
know
where
where
we are
people
in our
shine?
where we are in our economy right now, we need people with skills. Do you know how much you pay a plumber when you call them to your house here in the States?
I won't say it. My
Exactly. You
son,
pay.
my son, I was buying a house, and he had to do some plumbing work. When he got it estimated down, I don't think I won't own a house again.
Exactly. Exactly. So young people. Now let's go to our women. You talk about the fact that men uh feel sidelined.
Right.
Do you know that our women felt the same way for over 100 years?
Easily. And I think many of them still feel the same way
Exactly. Now,
in political
understand that I'm not
organizations, in other
advocating. I'm not
organizations.
advocating for an imbalance in gender equity. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying that men, before we start to raise our voices, let's understand that this extreme has come about because of the injustice that we levied against women over these many years. Okay, now we name that, but we also have to name that uh, when I call for gender equity, I was calling for fairness. I was not calling for men to be sidelined.
Right.
I was calling for gender equity. I do believe that if I were chief executive, I would be aligning the Ministry of Gender and the Ministry of Youth and Sport together. Not merging them, but aligning them together so that in their planning, they will be planning together, because that's how I see us creating this gender equality with the young people. So we can't just be focused on one. We must look at all together.
Yeah.
All right. So in terms of our women, yes, our women have been marginalized, but let's be honest too now, that in our desire to move Liberia forward, Liberia is one of the uh, few countries based on our population that we have had women playing significant role in our country. Significant role. I'm not just looking at the president or the vice president. Chief justice they have played in every significant sector in our political life. They're now playing a role in it. Now, should they be limited to that? No. I think in the private sector, we need to
George is funny. He said when you are used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. That's how men feel.
and he's so right about that.
Yes.
He's so right to that. And that's why
But that's what's happening in this country too.
That's what I'm saying. Let's Samuel Doe would say, let's digress for a moment, and come to these United States. That's exactly what is giving rise to white nationalism. That's what's giving rise to white nationalism.
Because equality feels like oppression to them.
Exactly.
That's
I mean, George, I will quote you on that the next time I say it. I will give you credit for that. So that's where we are with women. Now, when we move into the political realm in our country, I have to blame some of the issues we have with our lawmakers. I have to blame our voters. I always say an illiterate society will always show up in places that you don't want them to show up. So if,
I'll be
if
a
you have
devil's advocate on that. How do you blame these people who have never been taught physics? Most of them have not been given the opportunity to advance anywhere in school or to even develop any kind of critical thinking or understand the form of government they operate in.
So I agree. I'm agreeing with you, but like we say, like, bro, let me land. They are the voters. All right. Now, Liberians, like even the ones who are not exposed academically or educationally, Liberians are not stupid people.
No.
We are
so
not.
Why go for the
by no means. By no means. But again, voting in Liberia has never been based on ideas, have never been based on political platforms. It has always been based on relationships. And so people who are voted into power, they, for the most part, there are people who have built relationship over time with some of these people. Now, here of late, we use what we call economic violence. I mean, we use money violence. People that rob from us, use money they took from us, to buy their way into politics. Now we see that happening again because a hungry man is a vulnerable man.
Very.
If I'm giving you food, then look, I need to give you something back.
And I know
And
people know what they call kafu, but they say when you eat money or food from somebody, there's certain level of guilt when you don't respond to that. And that
exactly,
drives the elections.
and that drives the election. And in our own African culture, we feel a sense of obligation when that happens. All right, we feel a
Yeah.
sense of obligation. So again, we need to, we call voters education. It's not about teaching people how to vote.
Oh,
No, we need to teach people how to understand that politics is of such that whatever decisions are made by your so-called politician should be decisions that will affect you in the positive. All right, in the positive. Another miseducation we have politically in Liberia is the fact that we expect these elected officers to do something for us. So by so doing, someone like me may never win public office because I don't have money, to invest in you personally. What I would do for you is to advocate on the national level so that those things that we need in the community that I would represent would be done. Not that I will put my hand in my pocket, but I'm going to advocate that government resources, when we talk about the county development fund, that's where our elected officers should stand up and say, if this, my county needs a bridge, my county needs a school, and you advocate for that, you fight for that. You fight. And so your people know that I'm fighting for you, not that I am going to build the school. And the reason why, we're so corrupt is because we have to feel the fire that heats us. And so if you expect me to build a school out of my pocket, then when that concession agreement comes, I'm going to get
get my money
kickback
back.
to do that. And I'm going to award a concession agreement because that concession agreement benefits me to benefit my people. When in fact, that's not why you were elected. You were elected to advocate for your people, to be a voice for your people on the national stage. Shout from Mount Walagisi. And so your people know that, oh, Ava is there. He's fighting for me. Not that Ava is lining up his pocket to come and give me. No. Until we change the understanding of why elected officers are elected, we'll continue to play this game where the guy who has the largest purse will always get the position, which is wrong. It's morally wrong and sinful.
And that's 1/3, right? That representation piece. Then they got to pass laws that affect you directly. How many of these
Yes,
lawmakers really come up with laws? Missing most of the stuff come from the executive. You don't
exactly.
find a lawmaker looking at the problem and saying this is the law that can solve that problem and really push for the implementation of that law. That's one of them.
Right.
The oversight of these things.
Yeah.
What is the EPA doing? What is the LRA doing? What is this doing? Really providing oversight and being able to make sure that these people carry out their mandate is missing.
I agree. I agree. So my advice to the national legislatures: represent your people. You have to represent your people. You see, you were elected. You were elected by your people for a reason. Represent your people. Advocate for your people. Don't let that budget pass only because you got a pay increase or you got access to gas slip or scratch card or a car. No, you're not there for the budget to benefit you. You're there for the for the budget to benefit your people. So don't pass a budget. If your county needs a bridge and you cannot get that bridge built out of the national, don't pass the budget and let the people know why you're not voting for it. But
Wonderful.
you pass a budget because you get a pay increase. What that says to the people who put you there. So for my message, them represent your people, advocate for your people, and things will go well. To the judiciary, again, we're talking about trust. Not a lot of people, trust the system.
Mhm.
So how do you instill trust in a system that has been broken for years? All right. How do you do that? It starts from enforcing disciplinary measures. When a judge is accused of not ruling in favor of the law, but in favor of a personal benefit, then that person needs to be investigated. If found guilty, needs to be removed from performing that responsibility. If persons on the highest court in our nation are not performing. You see, we have to have the citizens has to be able to cry out now, Abba. Because the thing in Liberia is there'll be yo for 24 hours. Like Samuel Doe said, Liberia problem is 7 days. After 7 days, they go to something else. And there's some truth in that.
That's a fact. Sometimes
There's
7
some
days too
truth in that.
long. Sometimes two,
We,
3 days,
we
man.
do
You
not
forget.
hold on to, we do not fight for it. I'm not talking about getting in the street and
No.
blocking roads or going to people's house. I'm not talking about that. No. There are ways that we can pressure our government, pressure our elected leaders, that will shine light on their inefficiencies. There are ways to do that. Now, talk about the executive. Again, I think the president needs to. He's been in there now close into 2 years. There needs to be an assessment of all of um, his senior staffers, and where they've not performed. I understand that they signed a covenant, a contract with him. They need to reassess the contract, and see where there has been some you know lapse. And if you can build on it, fine. If you can, if you're not cut out for the job, then you need to go. There are other people out there who can come in and help. I wish we could get to the place where the chief executive would send out a job description and have people to apply for it. Whether you're a minister now, I understand you need lawyer people, but I don't think it's a bad exercise for people to apply for some of these jobs. And you appoint them. And I know this is far fetched, and this is probably earth shattering ideas, but yeah, I think people need to apply for some of these jobs. I honestly believe that,
You
and
know,
let them be vetted, to
because
get these jobs.
let's be honest. The president only know a limited number of people. Okay, for some of these, especially positions that require certain level of expertise and exposures and network to bring some things to the table, he doesn't know everybody who can do that. So
No.
it will be good to open it up a little bit, let other people make recommendations, or let it look like these look at the 10 resumes and see how you can do it. But look, this has been extremely impressive. Thank you for your participation. And people, I know you said, this shouldn't be looked at as political, but your oration put you on the political stage to a certain extent. So what do you see there? What are some of the possibilities? If you even thought about it, I'm sure I'm not the first person telling you there is potential from a political perspective for you, being not necessarily being a politician, but being active in the political space. What do you see?
Well, the older I get, and I'm 61 years, so hitting 62. If you read my professional story, you would know that I have been engaged in the world. To date, I've done work in over 100 countries. Um,
Wow.
from marginalized people of the Maasai tribe in the Serengeti, to advocating for um, equality of Black brothers and sisters coming out of apartheid in South Africa to being part of a reconciliation in Sierra Leone after the war. Most people don't even know of being part of a small team that had to go through 21 checkpoints from Monrovia to Banga to sit with Charles Taylor at the time to negotiate peace in Liberia. I've been involved in all of those, but not a lot of people know that because I'm not one. I don't even have a Facebook account. I'm not on social media. My LinkedIn account, you would never see pictures of me shaking president's hands or doing stuff. The pictures you would see probably will be of me feeding hungry children. Pictures that you would see me sitting with students. A picture of me, you would see me engaging young people. That's who I am. That's where I am. And anything that I can do to elevate the the life of people, that's where I find myself. And I'm
Wonderful.
I'm not running away from the political space because life is politics.
It
All of
is.
life is politics.
It
And
is.
I
And
told some,
unfortunately, the
yeah,
political economy controls the country because, like you're talking about
exactly,
the
yeah,
budget, you're
yeah,
talking about a
yeah,
lawmaker advocating for his
yeah,
people. If
right,
it's
right,
not in that budget, the other budget spending now is like a crime in Liberia, So you can't just find ways. You got to make it
yeah,
pay for the budget to represent the people, and that's where
yeah,
we at.
and yeah, and I say to people like yourself and others, there are good people who want to be part of this conversation and get in the political discourse. But many of us, we've kept our reputation so well over the years that even me coming to help with this diaspora conference, I had to think hard before I said yes because our people are so easy to tarnish one's reputation, to throw darkness on someone's character. And I tell people, the only thing I have is my name. I don't have a big bank account. I don't have a long education resume. The doctoral title that I have was conferred upon me, and that's a title I don't use. I've never signed my name as a doctor. People call me that. It's an honor. I accept it. I'm entitled to be called that because I have been awarded that. But I didn't sit in a classroom for that. And I say that to people all the time because I believe we need to give credence to those people who
Who
and
went
work
through
extremely
the
hard for
effort,
it,
the
and
work?
those
It's not
people
easy
to
work.
use that title. And someone said to me, "Well, the honor was given to you because you did work hard." I understand that, but I'm a transparent human being, and some of us don't want to come into this space because we don't want our name dragged in the mud for nothing. Now, if I come into this space and I disrespected my own integrity, then yes, it's fair game, you know. But I say this to say that there are many people out there, who really want to be a part, but they just don't want to come because I don't want people to say I did this, I did that when I didn't do it. It's the risk that we all take to
Yeah,
give
some people
leadership
will
to this
take it.
conference. It's a risk that I'm taking. I'm taking a risk because I know people, I know us, but I'm not deterred by that. I'm not deterred by that because I believe that if I can help bring government and the diaspora together under one umbrella of unity and say let's dialogue, then for me I've done it, and
I
I'm
was
not
just
running
about to
away.
ask you, what do you think is when you look at this whole diaspora conference, what comes out of it would be satisfactory to you and say, yes, I've done my work after immediately and then downstream?
Yeah, I one of the things that I'm hoping for, that in the committee is hoping for, is that recommendations coming out of this conference. For me, success would be to see that government implement some. Government can't implement all. This conference is not to tell government what to do or how to do its work. No, this conference for us to say after hearing government is to say, have you thought about doing it this way? Or have you considered us coming in and help you doing it that way? All right. We want to give government alternative to succeed. We want to pledge the government that we are available to help you move this arrest agenda for national development further down the road. That's what we want to do, and that's who we are. So for me, success would be ensuring that government, one, listens, government learns, and government make every attempt to implement, some of this. That's this calling us together is not for a photo op or a political stunt. It's a genuine call to sit together and to move on. And so for me, that would be a sense of accomplishment for us. And one of the recommendations that we're going to make to the president is, again, for him to appoint a non-governmental, even the government will be involved, because you can't do this without government participation, but headed by a non-government person, a commission to ensure that the conversations coming out of the conference uh, will be implemented to the best of the government's ability.
Wonderful. Thank you. So now you've given your messages to people. What's your parting word for the general, body out there? Just whatever you want to say to
Yeah, yeah,
people, whatever you want
yeah.
them to remember, please feel free. The stage is
Thank you.
yours.
Well, again, thank for having me, and for those person who stuck in there with us. Um, Thank you. Let me say this: Liberia is a gift to all of us. Liberia is a gift. God has given us this gift that we call Liberia. Though imperfect, it has been. Is still a gift. How we embrace it, how we cherish it, how we manage it is left with us. Discouragement comes in all kinds of ways and form. Don't be discouraged. Yes, doors may have been closed. We have been shut out in some instances. We've been denied in some instances. But let us not let that cause us from investing in the future of this country. I love I love Liberia. I love our Liberian people. As imperfect, as dysfunctional at times as we may be. Let me say this to you. The problems of Liberia is not really unique to Liberia. Every culture, every country, every society, every community, they have their own unique sets of problems. Our challenge is that we have not found ways to deal with some of our challenges. And I think we're in a unique position. We hold Liberia in our hands. Now, let me just end with this story to illustrate this point. I heard this story told in the early 80s by one Bishop Augustus Mawier. Some of you who grew up in the early 80s remember Augustus Mawier. He told the story. He told the story about two young boys who lived in this village. And in this village was an older gentleman that everybody considered to be, the leader of this village, and who was very wise. So everyone who encountered a problem, they would take to this gentleman for this gentleman to um, help them solve the problem. So he was considered the wise man in this village. And these two young boys decided that they would prove that this man was not as wise as everyone thought he was. So they devised a scheme. They went into the bush and they caught a bird, a live bird, and they said to each other, let's go to this old man and let's let him tell us the status of the bird, whether the bird is alive or dead. And one said to the other, but how will we do that? He said, well, let's go. We'll take the bird to him. We'll keep the bird behind our back, right? And we'll ask him this question. Old man, tell us whether the bird we have in our hand is alive or dead. If he says the bird is alive, we will crush the bird and kill it and show him a dead bird. If he says the bird is dead, we'll set the bird free. Either way, we got him. They thought about it, said, yeah, we got him. They went in, they got the bird, ran to this old man. Old man, we have a bird. Can you tell us whether the bird is alive or dead? Obviously, the old man pondered the question, scratched his head, sat back in the chair, and he said these words to them. He said, "Sons, I don't know whether the bird in your hand is alive or dead, but this I do know: the life of the bird
It's in your
is in
hands.
your hands.
Yes.
The life of the bird is in your hands." Friends, Liberia may be fluttering, Liberia may be struggling, but if Liberia is to soar, if the Lone Star is to fly forever, let that bird represent Liberia. And let those hands of those young boys represent your hands. We all hold Liberia in our hands. We can crush it by our criticism, by our lack of interest, by us walking away. I know we've been hurt. I know some of you have paid the price. I know some of you have done that. But you still hold Liberia in your hand. You can kill it. Or join those of us who want to set it free and let the Lone Star fly forever.
Wonderful.
Because at the end of the day, with God above, our rights to prove,
We
we
will
will, we will overall
prevail.
prevail. God bless you. Have a blessed Saturday and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks, Ava, for having me. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you. Yeah, folks, that was a wonderful show. Reverend Dunn stood by what he said in the oration, and he elaborated. So if we cannot, um, you know, see this as a positive opportunity where we can work together, where we can really build a country, where we can, diaspora can come and engage the people on the ground, similar people on the ground, and come and engage the diaspora, where it's not about everything, where it's about sharing, where it's about understanding where the other person come from and how we can actually work together. We can make a difference. We got so many opportunities in our country. Our mineral wealth is huge. We have strong potential in the agriculture sector. We just need one or two steps. We just need people to get opportunities. We just need to make every Liberian feel like if I work hard, I can get to where I want to get to. People got to have that mindset. They'll be more incentivized to work. Not regardless of how you work, you just stuck in one hole. No, it's discouraging. So this is what we do on the OGs. There will be an opportunity for the young people to come in and really make their case as well. But we do support the kids. Look, seriously, the young people in Liberia. I mean, some of the positive things I hear from people. I was talking to, we had a cover the other day, cover Bole, about some of the stuff they're doing at University of Liberia and the Unipart for the young people who are participating in the technology space and learning stuff and doing stuff that's just so dramatically impressive. It's so different. That's impressive stuff. Then you got some of the kids, they get involved in hackathon where they're teaching them, they're understanding some of the artificial intelligence space and what to do in there. They're doing well too. So there's a lot of people trying to do things, but how do we concretize and kind of centralize this thing that is an impactful momentum? Is a ball rolling downhill that people can stop. That's what we need to do. We need to package this stuff in a way that all these efforts are building blocks for additional efforts. If we can continuously improve, we know we got to set targets, we achieve them, we set more targets, we achieve them. So we have that opportunity. Now I will open the lines. I will take calls if you want to call and say something, whether is related to what Dr. Dunn said, whatever what previous of our guests have said, or if you have something original you want to share, feel free. The number is 301 So if you is scrolling at the bottom there, if you want to call, I have about 10 more minutes, and you can call in and be a part of this. But I really believe in the future. I've always believed in the future of Liberia, even when it was bleak. And we still now do have a huge opportunity to move forward as a people. We just need a strong commitment, like Emmett said. We need a strong commitment for those people in position to do the right thing, to actually do the jobs. That way, a lot of things can happen, whether they're negotiating concessions and making sure that Liberia is first. That's what the focus is not the 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or $100,000 they can get on the side to sidetrack from the greater good of the country just for their own individual aggrandizement. No, they got to be seeking the best interest of the country in these negotiations. They got to execute the functions in the best interest of the people. This whole gatekeeping where they're blocking things because it doesn't fit their own agenda or they don't get personal stuff on it should stop. Like he said, there are a lot of qualified people in this government. There are a lot of qualified Liberians all over the place. There should be no insecurity when it comes to us working together, thinking somebody want your job or want your position. A lot of people want to help. A lot of people want to participate, but they need to be given that opportunity. They be given the space to be able to say what they want to say, contribute what they can contribute, and participate gainfully and substantially in our economy in the country. So, the no calls coming in. Let's do this again. I believe next weekend we have Benjamin Fania, and his topic is the youth. He wants to, share the current status of the youth and where it could go, and then share that, integrate that into the economy as much as we can. It should be a very good conversation too. He has dabbled around saying he wants to be president. We've tried to find out whether he's really serious or whether he's joking. But folks, I'm bullish on Liberia. I'm optimistic that things can happen. I know some people, who got huge dreams for Liberia, in multiple sectors. And if those things can come to fruition, it will be job creation for our young people, be huge opportunities for them, to better themselves. Now, people will not leave and not want to come back because you take a pool of the young Liberians today, probably 75 or 80%, if not more, will want to leave the country to go and seek greener pasture somewhere else. And we need to change that mindset. When I was growing up in Liberia, I was not thinking about coming to stay in the US. I'm thinking about coming to school and come back to Liberia. Yeah, regardless of what you get. And that time, my mom owned jet bluffing business. They enjoyed my life, right? So it'll be like, playing boy, you got anything, man. But if you can get something unique and take it to Liberia, you the dog, you the man. You can roll the way you want to roll. So we have, I don't want to say a Garden of Eden, but we have a wonderful situation where we can make Liberia a beautiful place for all Liberians. So hopefully most of us can start to think that way. Hopefully the message from Dr. Duncan take hold to each of the different categories of people he spoke to. Our lawmakers need to step up. Again, there will be probably another 75% change come 2029 because they're just not working. Probably 75% of them will not go back. And so the people are hungry. Our people are looking for leadership. And leadership comes in different forms from different places. We can't just continue, everything is business as usual. Our people are not stupid people, but our people are limited in how they can really reach out because sometimes it's the lack of knowledge, sometimes the lack of opportunity, sometimes there's nobody to help them open the door. So we have to be there. We have to help as much as we can and work with our people. So thank you for watching. We appreciate you. Share the show. You can still share the show. It's on YouTube. People can watch it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hopefully we'll be bringing, off the cuff situation, just popping up and saying stuff sometimes and just continuously energizing our people, trying to look forward to a better Liberia. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We look forward to next week. Thank you. Let me end this stream.